Well, that sucked. Okay, let's keep going. Low-fat yogurt. A cup of fortified yogurt packs about 20% of your daily vitamin D, which is a tidbit worth keeping in mind, since studies show that too low levels of the nutrient can be linked to cognitive decline. Experts are still learning why that is, but it's possible that vitamin D strengthens connections between brain cells to help your brain function more effectively, explains Kuchin. Since not all yogurt is fortified, make sure vitamin D is on the ingredients list before tossing a few cups into your grocery cart. Almond butter. Loading up on 5 or more servings of nuts per week could improve your memory, according to a study in the Journal of Nutrition, Health and Aging. Almonds in particular are packed with vitamin E, which is believed to fight oxidative damage in the brain that occurs naturally with age, says Kuchin. So why almond butter? It's as versatile as the little black dress hanging in your closet. Add 2 tablespoons, which is 1 serving, to pureed soups, like butternut squash, to create a rich, creamy texture. Slather it over a sweet potato or spoon it over banana slices and mini dark chocolate chips for a guilt-free dessert. Red Body, Hungry Girl. 3 new skinny food swaps. Count on Hungry Girl Lisa Lillen to find the cleverest ways to cut calories. These who knew buys are delicious and 100% guilt-free. I'm always looking for healthy foods that give me a lot of bang for my nutritional buck. Here are 3 fantastic finds I think you should try immediately. They sound a little unexpected, but I promise you they're yummy and will save you tons of calories. Unsweetened cashew milk. Made from cashew nuts, this is creamier than soy milk or almond milk and has a fraction of the calories of dairy milk, roughly 30 calories per cup versus about 85 in skim. The flavor is mild, so it works really well in coffee or oatmeal. Also amazing in this 160 calorie shake. In a blender, combine 3/4 cup cashew milk, 1 cup peeled and chopped apple, 1/4 of a cup fat-free Greek yogurt, 2 packets natural no-calorie sweetener, 1/4 teaspoon vanilla extract, and 1 cup crushed ice. Yum. Silk and So Delicious both make it, and I love Blue Diamond's Almond Breeze in unsweetened vanilla almond cashew, which is almond and cashew milk. Heads up, the sweetened versions have more calories. Powdered peanut butter. I've been crazy about this stuff for a while, but it's been a little hard to find. Well, powdered peanut butter, just add a little water to turn it into spread, has finally gone mainstream, with a version made by Jif on the shelves now. Made from defatted peanuts, this all-natural powder has less than half the calories and a small fraction of the fat as regular peanut butter. A 2 tablespoon serving has only about 45 calories and 1.5 grams of fat. Add some to baked goods that need a little flavor boost, or make an Asian-style sauce with it by combining 1.5 tablespoons powdered peanut butter, 1/4 cup unsweetened almond milk, 1 teaspoon honey, 1/2 teaspoon lime juice, and 1/4 crushed garlic. It's so good on chicken and veggies. Coconut bacon. I know this one sounds goofy, but it tastes amazing, and it's completely meat-free. It's made of crunchy bits of coconut that have been expertly seasoned to make it taste just like bacon. Salty, mouth-watering, and all-around incredible. A 2 tablespoon serving of phony bologna's version has 25 calories and about 2 grams of fat. Much less than the traditional pork bacon. It's sold in select natural food stores and online. Top off a salad, try it on ice cream, delicious, or mix it right into scrambled eggs. Red Body, Busy Women's Fitness. Get slimmer in the kitchen. This move from Natalie Uling, a trainer in New York City and creator of the New Fit method, is extra powerful and can be knocked out while you wait for the pot to boil. It targets the obliques, the muscles on your side that help cinch your waist. Step 1. Stand with your right hand on the edge of the counter and walk out until your body is at a 45-degree angle. Stack your feet and raise your left arm out to the side. Step 2. Twist your torso to the right, reaching through the open space between your body and the counter with your left hand. Do 3 sets of 15. Repeat on the other side. Do some healthy spring cleaning. This stuff is easier to tackle than your basement and needs an overhaul just as badly. Your keep or toss your rules right here. Yoga mat. If it's balding or uneven, that puppy has seen its last downward dog. A worn out yoga mat can slip or tear, putting you at risk for injury. If your mat is just dirty, and trust us, it probably is, spritz it with a mixture of 2 cups water and 4 drops of dish soap. Wipe the mat clean, give it a once-over with a towel, and let it line dry. Sneakers. You should replace your running or walking shoes every 300 to 500 miles, and cross trainers after up to 60 hours of fitness classes. Old kicks can leave you achy since the cushioning in the midsoles are designed to absorb shock. Tossing sneakers in the washer can wear them out faster, so if you really want them sparkly again, scrub dirt with a toothbrush and a bit of soap. Workout clothes. Sports bras should be swapped out once the elastic has stretched, while the moisture-wicking shirts and pants will generally last for 50 workouts, as long as you wash them after each use and don't leave them crumpled in your gym bag, where bacteria can fester and break down the fibers. Wash these items on gentle and skip softeners and dryer sheets, which can clog the fabric, making it less breathable. Here's our big article for today. I've got 32 minutes left to read. What will it take to save women from cancer? You. It'll take you. There are women across this country suffering, and yes, dying, from cancers that people don't like to talk about, and doctors have a hard time diagnosing and treating. Does that sound like a world we should be living in? Here's what you need to know to help them and yourself. By Virginia Soul Smith. Rachel Banoff Gould was just 30 years old when she had an abnormal Pap Smear, and a series of tests revealed cancerous cells in her cervix. It was February 2011. She was newly married. She and her husband Ben were excited to start a family. At first, it felt like, this is terrible, but we can beat it, says her sister Jessica Banoff, 41, of Raleigh, North Carolina. After all, Rachel was the kind of girl who celebrated her birthday by taking trapeze lessons. She was tenacious and brave, and she never missed an OB/GYN visit. She took her health seriously. Although the vast majority of women survive early-stage cervical cancer, Rachel's case was complicated because the disease had already reached 2 lymph nodes. She soon underwent surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation, and began planning a trip to Bali and Korea for the fall. Rachel loved to travel. She was always making these grand plans with massive spreadsheets, Jessica recalls. Then in August, just a few months after she finished treatment, Rachel's doctors found new tumors in her abdomen. That's when it became a different fight, Jessica says. The doctors tried everything, but the cancer continued to spread. Rachel cared less about seeing the world now. It was more about these small moments she worried she would miss. Jessica says, one day Rachel insisted on taking her sister wedding dress shopping, even though Jessica wasn't engaged. I put on all the craziest dresses, and we took tons of pictures. She wanted us to have this experience together. In March 2012, just 13 months after her diagnosis, Rachel died. 4 years later, Jessica still wonders how this could have happened. Rachel was informed and proactive. She did everything right, Jessica says. But there's still too much we don't know about these cancers. For nearly 40 years, gynecologic cancers, the umbrella term for a collection of diseases, of which cervical, ovarian, and uterine cancers are most common, followed by vaginal and uvular, have received a fraction of the attention given that to the other, much better known women cancers. When the Susan G. Komen Foundation pinned on its first pink ribbon in 1982, only 74% of women diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer lived longer than 5 years. Billions of research dollars later, almost 99% of the women in that group will survive past that benchmark. It's been a long and arduous fight, but experts agree we are winning the war on breast cancer by almost any medical measure. Meanwhile, about 98,000 women per year are diagnosed with some type of gynecological cancer, and though their overall numbers is smaller compared with the 230,000 for breast cancer, these diseases are harder to detect, spread more quickly, and kill more of the women they affect. Only 68% of cervical cancer patients and less than half of ovarian cancer patients survive 5 years past their diagnosis. Yet in 2014, the National Institutes of Health approved $682 million in grants for breast cancer research and only $131 million for ovarian cancer, while cervical and uterine cancers received even less. It shouldn't be about prioritizing one type of cancer over another, explains Ginger Gardner, MD, a gynecologic oncologist at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City. Doctors, researchers, and women need to band together and fight all of these diseases. And to do that, we need to understand what's holding us back. A cancer people still whisper about. Incredibly, embarrassment over talking about that part of a woman's body is still a barrier to taking awareness of gynecological cancers fully mainstream. Tamika Felder of Upper Marlboro, Maryland, experienced it when she was diagnosed with cervical cancer 14 years ago. "You probably got that from sleeping around," she remembers a friend's husband saying. Researchers were beginning to publicize findings that a sexually transmitted infection called the human papillomavirus causes most types of cervical cancer, as well as many vaginal, vulvar, and anal tumors. "I felt ashamed," Tamika says. She particularly dreaded bringing up her cancer when she was dating. She's now happily married. "I always thought, what is this person going to think if they Google my kind of cancer?" The stigma is very, very real. It's also entirely misplaced. By the time they're 39 years old, more than 50% of American women will be infected with one of the 9 strains of HPV that are most likely to cause warts or cancer, according to a study in the Journal of Infectious Diseases. And we know that estimate is low, says Patty Gravitt, PhD, an epidemiologist at the George Washington University Milken Institute School of Public Health in Washington, D.C. There are actually 150 strains total, a dozen of which can cause cancer. Most of us will end up with at least one HPV infection during our lifetime, Gravitt explains. It's nothing to be ashamed of. HPV is a truly an equal opportunity virus. Meanwhile, the causes of most other gynecological cancers are either unknown or possibly genetic, though they may still be viewed as taboo. We see stomach cancer a lot in family trees, and it's also a euphemism for a gynecological cancer that wasn't considered proper to talk about, says Joy Larson Heigl, past president of the National Society of Genetic Counselors. It may sound old-fashioned, but the uneasiness persists. It often feels like we're back where breast cancer was a few decades ago, when not everyone felt comfortable talking about breasts, says Garner, who works closely with the Foundation for Women's Cancer. That reluctance inspired Tamika to launch a nonprofit called Survivor, which teaches other survivors how to talk about their cervical cancer and HPV, and advocate for the HPV vaccine, which can prevent the most common cancer-causing strains of the virus. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, recommends that it be given to girls and boys at age 11 or 12. But that has been met with controversy, as opponents fear that inoculating kids might encourage promiscuity. There's no evidence to support that. Research shows that getting the HPV vaccine doesn't lead to adolescents being more sexually active or start having sex at a younger age, says Laura Markowitz, MD, a medical epidemiologist at the CDC. This is about preventing cancer, Tamika says. I can't believe we have a vaccine, and yet some people are unwilling to use it. You have to find it to treat it. The squeamishness around the below-the-belt health can cross over into the doctor's office, where experts say women are sometimes hesitant to speak up about their symptoms. We can tell that women aren't happy to be there a lot of the time, says Mary Jane Minkin, MD, a clinical professor of obstetrics and gynecology at the Yale School of Medicine in New Haven, Connecticut. And every now and then, as we're leaving the room, a patient will say, by the way, I'm having some trouble. What follows, she says, is often the sheepish revelation of a complicated issue. Erin Rothfuss wishes she had done more She had more involved conversations with her doctor. Her periods had gotten progressively worse for 3 years. I knew that was weird for me, and yet I hesitated to push for answers, she says. It's easy to dismiss these symptoms because they can seem so vague. It wasn't until she moved that her new OBGYN decided to perform an ultrasound. She found cysts and scheduled an appointment to have them removed, recalls Erin, now 44 and a lawyer in San Francisco. She said it would likely require a simple laparoscopic surgery and it only should take about 45 minutes. She says, I woke up 5 hours later to perform. They had performed a total hysterectomy because I had stage 3 ovarian cancer, a decision that saved her life. I'm grateful that I had never wanted children of my own, but it was still painful to have that door slammed shut, she says. Yet Erin is one of the lucky ones. Following intensive chemotherapy, she's been cancer-free for 6 years. Why didn't Erin's doctors know that her cysts were cancerous until they began cutting them out? Because scientists have yet to develop a way to screen for tumors when they're buried deep inside your pelvis. A staggering 70% of ovarian cancers reach stage 3 or 4 before they're diagnosed at all. And at that point, the disease is so advanced that the 5-year survival rate can be as low as 17%. The breast is on the outside of your body, which makes it easier to screen and understand, Garner explains. But tumors on your ovaries start out tiny, and their cells steadily slough off. All it takes is a few cancerous cells free-floating in the pelvis, and it's a different ballgame. In a nationwide survey of 521 gynecologists conducted by researchers at the University of California, San Francisco, nearly 50% believed that pelvic exams were very important in the detection of ovarian cancer. But the exam isn't approved as a screening tool since it can't catch the disease early enough to dramatically improve treatment outcomes. We can tell the women to be on the lookout for symptoms like abdominal pain, bloating, or abnormally heavy periods, says John Micah, MD, a gynecologic oncologist in Newport Beach, California, and president of the Nancy Yeary Women's Cancer Research Foundation. But by the time a woman notices anything, the cancer has likely spread. To detect ovarian cancer early, scientists need to find some subtler change in a woman's body, one that happens before the tumor can be felt by a doctor. A blood marker, known as CA-125, is elevated in ovarian cancer patients and has long been used to track the disease once a woman is diagnosed. But since the CA-125 levels also fluctuate for non-cancerous reasons, including pregnancy, it was dismissed as a potential detection tool until a recent British study suggested an algorithm for analyzing CA-125 levels in precancerous women, stoking media buzz about a breakthrough ovarian cancer test. The research has been greeted cautiously by the medical community, though a group of experts in the United States is expected to release a statement this spring about what it means for women. We're hopeful that it could eventually help us identify women at higher risk, says Carmel Cohen, MD, a gynecologic oncologist at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City and chair of the Gynecologic Cancer Advisory Group for the American Cancer Society. The news is slightly better for uterine cancer. While there's no screening, its first symptom, unexplained bleeding, tends to manifest early in the disease's progression. We diagnose most of these cases at stage 1, when the cure rate is 95%, Micah says. Still, the onus is on women to report their symptoms quickly. Once the disease reaches the lymph nodes, the 5-year survival rate drops to 68%. It plummets even further if the cancer spreads elsewhere in the abdomen or lungs. Cervical cancer is the only one of these types of cancers to have a reliable screening tool. Since the Pap Smear became a standard protocol, the number of invasive cervical cancers we see each year has gone from 100,000 down to 10,000, says Cohen. In some cases, the Pap Smear can even prevent cancer by allowing doctors to find and treat cells and lesions that could lead to cervical cancer, as well as subvaginal and vulvar cancers, before they develop into a larger problem. But the new guidelines from the United States Preventive Services Task Force suggest that many women can go 3 to 5 years between Pap smears. That gap concerns some doctors. It might mean that people won't see their doctor at all, and you should once a year, whether you get a Pap smear or not, says Minkin, noting that there has also been some controversy over whether women need to have an annual pelvic exam. She believes they should. For one thing, it's an opportunity to discuss ways to manage your risk for these cancers, from watching your weight to starting the pill. For Erin, the ovarian cancer survivor, the message is clear. You'll have to talk to your doctor if you're concerned. And even if your doctor says it's fine, don't be afraid to push them harder. Not sure what to say? Try, "Prove to me this isn't cancer," suggests Cohen. Aggressive? Yes, but necessary. So few options and a ticking clock. With diagnosis happening late in the game, a woman with gynecologic cancer needs the best treatment and quickly. But there simply aren't enough gynecologic oncologists. This especially requires extensive training, notes Micah. We're only graduating about 35 new fellows each year. Fewer than 60% of patients ever even see a gynecologic oncologist, in part because they're found mostly in high-volume treatment centers rather than local hospitals. Find a center by entering your zip code at foundationforwomenscancer.org. These doctors are more likely to have access to the most promising new treatments, but even some of those are still too experimental to be widely available or covered by insurance. But when a woman does find the right specialist and does get cutting-edge treatment, there are moments of real hope. Stacy Canone, a 41-year-old accountant from Lynbrook, New York, met Gardner 6 years ago, when a series of abnormal Pap smears revealed early-stage endocervical adenocarcinoma, an unusual form of cervical cancer. Stacy was newly married then. You never think your first year of marriage is going to involve your husband learning to change your urinary catheters because you've just had cancer surgery, she says. And as soon as she heard cancer, Stacy says, I was already taking the idea of having a child and putting it in the garbage. The traditional treatment for Stacy's cancer is a total hysterectomy, because taking out all of the reproductive organs is the most definitive way to ensure the cancer cells are completely removed. Gardner, however, was determined to preserve her patient's fertility along with her life. So she performed a surgery known as a radical tracheotomy, removing Stacy's cervix and upper vagina, but leaving her ovaries and uterus in place, as well as a new procedure that helped doctors better evaluate the lymph nodes. Today, Stacy has been cancer-free for more than 5 years and gave birth to a baby girl in December. Stacy's story is not typical, but it should be. Gynecologic cancers are still waiting for a groundswell of women to demand better research and more funding. If every person in the United States donated $1, there would be enough money to establish a Komen for any number of cancers, said Micah, referring to the powerhouse breast cancer charity Susan G. Komen. And yes, even small donations help. About 80% of our research grants are funded by advocacy groups and families, says Karen Carlson, Executive Director for the Foundation for Women's Cancer. Simply put, awareness translates into research dollars, she says. Over the years, there have been headline-grabbing stories to remind us how devastating these cancers are. Like the comedian Gilda Radner's death in the 80s, and country star Joey Feek's recent battle with cervical cancer, shared bravely and beautifully on social media. But it's on all of us to keep women's cancers in the collective consciousness. If you've already given your $1 or $20, there are walks to join. Check out globathon.com for all women's cancers and tealwalk.org for ovarian cancers. There are ribbons to wear, teal for ovarian, peach for uterine, lavender for all women's cancers, and frank conversations to have with your own doctors, as well as your mom, your sister, and your friends. In the end, Rachel's death was a loss of such potential, says Jessica Banoff of her sister. If she had survived, she would be the one advocating for more research and trials. A little more than a month before she died, Rachel Banoff Gould wrote a blog post about the 1-year anniversary of her diagnosis. This is not where I was supposed to be, she said, of the cancer that had by then spread to her lungs and was defying all available treatments, ruthlessly disrupting her plans for the trips she had hoped to take and the children she had longed to have. But I will tell you this. We are not giving up yet. We can't give up then either. Those are the stories I like to read. And 10 minutes left. Be your own advocate. First things first. You need to see your gyno every year so she can track any changes in your health, no matter how small they seem. As for everything else, we know this. The sooner cancer is identified, the better your chances of beating it. Fortunately, the screening tools we do have are affordable. Pap smears are covered by most insurance plans, and Medicare are also available at government-assisted clinics like Planned Parenthood. Use this info to stay proactive. Cervical, vaginal, and uvular cancers. The screening. Pap smear. Women should have their first Pap at age 21. The official recommendation is to repeat it every 3 years until age 65, as long as it's normal. You should know.